Greetings, everyone. Here we are with another delightful video. This time it's going to be covering another catch-up video for Pathfinder 2nd Edition Legacy or Classic, or Pathfinder 2nd Edition 2021 version. This is for Lost Omens Legends, from the Lost Omens line for Pathfinder 2nd Edition Legacy or Classic, or 2024 version. This MSRP is for probably around $35. Beautiful color artwork. It's a fairly thin book. A point of example is Monsters and Treasures of Ehrenheid for Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. That is a good comparison of how thick the books are. See, so there. You also have seen, if you watch Dragons of Monster 5th Edition role-playing Monsters and Treasure from Ehrenheid, you will have a reference point for a few interesting points. This book contains all the important legendary characters within Dungeons & Dragons Pathfinder 2nd Edition Legacy lore. You have the table of contents right here, which only takes up 2 pages, as opposed to 5 pages of the 5th edition role-playing Monsters and Treasure from Ehrenheid book. We open to the Sky Tour little section, denoting a legendary event of the Starfall. Double-page piece of artwork. And then we go into the introduction, which goes over important spoilers and elements of the world as it's going forward in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. We then enter onto noteworthy individuals of Pathfinder 2nd Edition, such as Arbigail Thorine II, Queen of Chiliax. And then we continue on from there. We also happen to have a few magical items that are included in that. Some in-world lore pages about a few things. So we have another important character, a little bit of history, another important character. Each piece of each character in this book has a piece of artwork of them, as well as a setting based around them. Notations on various important characteristics of the character, where they're from. Sometimes they'll include in-world lore sections on one thing or another, such as a flower that's related to them, or an animal that's symbolic of them, or important piece of information about the culture that's tied to them. A special item, palm crossbow, and vestiges lenses. There's various other important people that are in charge of various nations, a bit of history about those nations. But that's basically the standard of this book, you know. You'll get a few more important things, such as a spell, a cantrip, and a force or spell. So there's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, some magic items, some spells, some focus spells, a feat here and there, a piece of equipment that you can borrow from, but largely this entire book is entirely around important characters of lore in the Golarian world, with just a few few other items tossed in here and there, a few in lore things, as you can see. Continue paging. A paging along and a paging along, paging along. I think I got my camera set a little too high up, but if I set it a little bit lower, then it might be a little too low. So that's the general gist of this book. Important characters, important magic items related to them, important spells related to them, important focus spells, important feats related to them. A little bit of information about how they relate to organizations or the symbols related to them. In-world lore tied to the culture tied to them around that time, and so forth. Material Sovereign Steel. Diluted Hype. Plasma Hype. Lick-Toed Goblins. The Sapphire Butterfly. Some dedication feat. Tabletop. By the way, some of these characters in this book, not all of them, not even half of them, get re-referenced in later books, such as Knights of the Last Wall, such as Tarbathon back there, as well as a few of the Knights of the Last Wall characters in this book. And they go into more detail in those books as well. But probably 2/3 of the characters in this book don't get brought up again in later books. Various flowchart of various individuals related to various important characters in lore. Then we got the glossary and index, as well as the OGL, and an advertisement for Gods and Magic, because they really need to stick that advertisement in more books to sell the copies off. But anyways, this book is mostly for the Game Master. So a Game Master score is probably sitting somewhere around for Classic Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Probably a 3.75. But for players, it's basically 3.25 or 3 stars. There is stuff in this book that players can use. It is useful for players in various respects. There's far more than some other books have in this book for players. The in-world stuff, or the in-world sections, don't overtake the entirety of the book. There are some books for Pathfinder 2nd Edition Classic that the in-world structure and formatting was so incredibly invasive that it actually fundamentally made the book harder to use, to the point of you literally having to read the entire book end to end to discover that there is this material or item in this one little corner of a page or something like that. So there's that. This is still usable, a good usable size, small hardcover. Part of me says that for some reason that it's almost necessarily not necessary to make all these books hardcover. They probably could be soft cover, and they actually be, if the soft cover was treated and maybe a little bit reinforced, it would be better, as it would take a fewer, less space on a shelf, would make them lighter, and it would make them cheaper, which would then mean that people could afford or to buy more of them. So we probably could shave off another $5 off the price if it was soft cover, or another $10. But anyways, this book is still fairly useful if you're playing Pathfinder 2nd Edition Classic, or if you're a Game Master, particularly for those who are playing in the world of Golarion. However, there are numerous feats, magical items, and spells in this book that you can still use in your regular Pathfinder 2nd Edition games that are not in Golarion as well. So I do give this a soft recommendation for Game Masters, as well as even softer recommendation for players. It's Game Masters, absolute buy. For Game Masters. For players, it's down here, and then down here is don't even bother. But anyways, there you go. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want more Pathfinder 2nd Edition Classic, as well as Remaster stuff. Subscribe to the channel. If you want more stuff on Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, 2014 and 2024, subscribe to the channel. First party and third party stuff. I also cover classic TSR games, as you can see here. Got original Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, Star Frontiers. I also have Call of Cthulhu stuff that I cover over here. This is the Chult book. That's a fairly expensive book and it's very pretty. I have a collection of all kinds of books I bought on various TTRPG issues. Please note that I removed a lot of the books from my shelf because the shelf is at that magical point that it's probably not strong enough to take a whole lot more weight on it. So at some point I'm going to have to get rid of this shelf and get a proper shelf, a proper wood-made shelf to put my books on, because this is literally at its near max capacity. So there you go. I hope you have a delightful day, a nice night, a wonderful weekend, a magnificent month, and see you next time. Ciao.